Welcome and thank you for joining us for this second installment of Sbir Sttr webinar. My name is Carlos Gutierrez. I'm the Strategic Alliances and Innovation Ecosystem Specialist with the Minority Business Development Agency. Just to get us started here, I'm going to give a quick overview of a couple of things. First of all, MBDA, next I3, the collaboration we have here with Uspto, and then I'm going to introduce our distinguished panel here. First, MBDA is one of 12 bureaus within the Department of Commerce. We're the only federal agency solely dedicated to supporting the growth and support of minority business enterprises. We do that through a network of 40 funded centers throughout the country. More information can be found on MBDA at www.mbda.gov. Specifically, this webinar, in collaboration with Uspto, is part of the I3 initiative, Inclusive Innovation Initiative. The goal of the initiative is to provide for more engagement with federal laboratories, federal resources, and innovation ecosystem resources in the private sector. Uspto is the federal agency for granting patents and registering trademarks. The strength and vitality of the U.S. economy depends on effective mechanisms that protect new ideas and investments in innovation and creativity, and the continued demand for patents and trademarks underscores the ingenuity of American inventors and entrepreneurs. The USPTO is at the cutting edge of the nation's technological process and achievement. Today, we're going to talk about a general overview of SBIR and STTR, getting more into the STTR side. On the first webinar, we discussed basics of SBIR. That overview is going to be provided by Nagesh Rao, and then we're going to get into what is technology infusion, what it is, and how does it apply to SBIR STTR, and that will be given by Dr. Ramsey L. Smith. Also, we will be accepting questions throughout the webinar. Please send your questions in the chat feature at Questions USPTO. Now I'd like to introduce our two panelists, and then we'll start with Nagesh, and he'll give his overview, and we'll move on to Dr. Smith. Dr. Nagesh Rao currently serves as Chief Technologist and Entrepreneur in Residence with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Investment and Innovation. His portfolio of work includes SBIR STTR program and coordination of the Fueling Small Business Innovation Interagency Policy Committee for the White House Lab to Market Commercialization Agenda. He played an instrumental role in the creation and execution of 5 major interagency policy committee reports regarding the SBIR STTR program on behalf of the White House Office of Science and Technology and SBA for U.S. Congress, as well currently co-leading the revamped build out of the SBIR.gov platform that centralizes the programmatic efforts of the 11 participating federal agencies. Nagesh's credentials include an MBA from the University of Maryland College Park in Global Strategy and Entrepreneurship, a Master of Science in Legal Studies and Intellectual Property Law from Albany Law School, and a Bachelor of Science dual major in Materials Engineering, and Philosophy from Rensselaer Polytechnical Institute. I probably mispronounced that, sorry for that. And a patent bar license from the USPTO. Also joining us is Dr. Ramsey L. Smith, who is the Technology Infusion Manager for the Small Business Innovation Research Program and the Program Lead for the Small Business Technology Transfer Program at NASA Goddard. He earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Chemistry from Morehouse College and his PhD in Atmospheric Chemistry at Howard University. During his matriculation through graduate school, he received several NASA scholarships and fellowships. His research focus was planetary atmospheric chemistry and centered on vacuum ultraviolet dissociative photoionization. After completing his doctoral degree, Dr. Smith was a ORA NASA postdoctoral fellow at NASA Goddard Flight Space Center in the Planetary Systems Laboratory, where his research varied from laboratory atmospheric chemistry to observing planetary atmospheres from an infrared telescope facility in Hawaii. I'd like to welcome both of our distinguished guests on the panel and turn it over to Nagesh to start us off.
Thank you, Carlos. and it's a pleasure to join you all today, and also specifically here at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, as I was once a former patent examiner many moons ago, so it's nice to come back to my home. As Carlos mentioned, I am the Chief Technologist at the U.S. Small Business Administration, and the SBA holds a very unique role as an agency. We are an independent agency with the administrator being part of the President's Cabinet and the leading voice on all issues around small businesses and helping high-growth entrepreneurship and high-tech small businesses and even Main Street small businesses get a piece of the pie and making sure they are part of the economic vitality and growth of the United States. The program I work on I hold very near and dear to my heart. The SBIR program, the Small Business Innovation Research Grant and Contract Program, is a very instrumental and catalytic tool that helped launch high-tech entrepreneurship. It was founded in 1982, and I know as part of this two-part webinar, you've heard some stuff from Dr. Sariano from NSF, and you'll hear more from Dr. Ramsey as well. But this program has been very instrumental in launching next-generation science and technology from an applied perspective here in America. So I'm going to start off with listing some iconic names, hopefully, that you'll recognize and give you that common thread. So if you've heard of Qualcomm, Biogen, Symantec, the Norton antivirus software, Intuitive Surgical, the Da Vinci surgical robot device, you're probably familiar with the concept of 3D printing, even, let's say, some of the next-gen biopharmaceutical companies and whatnot. Those are companies and technologies that were all instrumentally seed financed through the SBIR program. The SBIR program, since '82, has deployed around $40+ billion into high-tech small businesses to do cutting-edge leading science, technology, research, and development for the federal government. What's funny, though, is that when you look at two of our success stories, and out of many success stories, Qualcomm and Biogen IDEC, and you combine the two market cap of those two companies, it more than triples the return on investment of that $40 billion. Qualcomm's current market capitalization value is at around $70 billion, and Biogen IDEC is around $50 billion. And those are two of many successful home runs we've had over the years. The interesting thing about the SBIR program is that it is the federal government's way of taking a set aside of our extramural research and development dollars and essentially seed financing high-tech small business companies and high-tech entrepreneurs and startups to do applied research and development for the federal government, outsourcing that work that would be normally done by the agencies to entrepreneurs and high-tech individuals to do that work from a commercialized perspective, applied perspective. So what does that really mean? That means that we're paying you to do that necessary research and development for us with the notion that you will commercialize that technology. Now, here's the best part. We don't take any equity stake. What does that mean? We don't take any ownership of your company. You do not have to pay the money back. As long as you do the research and development required, you keep the money. What we expect are the results, and what we expect are good technology and research and development that comes about to help the public need or the good or the federal government. And it's a stage process where if you win a phase 1 grant or contract, that phase 1 is around proof of concept, coming up with a feasibility study and answering a particular solicitation put forth by the federal agencies. And if you do a good job with that, you then become eligible for phase 2. And phase 2 funding is where you develop the proof of concept and prototype further and refine it for hopeful commercial development and deployment and selling of the product. What is a typical phase 1 amount? Well, you have a cap of around $150,000 to do that R&D from a feasibility perspective. The average size is around $80,000, $90,000. Phase 2, you have up to $1 million to build out your prototype and employ the scientists and technologists you need to do that necessary research and development. And the average size around for a phase 2 is around 800, 900K. But the point is that that's free money from the federal government. $2 to $2.5 billion each year set aside across 11 different participating federal agencies, from Department of Defense all the way down to EPA. Now, a couple of things I wanted to point out to you is that when engaging with the SBIR program, you are engaging in an opportunity where it is somewhat prescriptive depending on the agency of interest. And so you should ask yourself, am I a high-tech entrepreneur who wants to build a startup and grow big, or am I a high-tech entrepreneur who wants to just create a high-tech small business firm and maintain myself small? And that's going to direct your course path a little bit of whether or not you go for granting funding or contracting funding from the 11 participating federal agencies. My colleague, Dr. Smith, Ramsey will explain to you that for NASA, they operate their funding as a contracting program. Why? Because the notion is that the technology that you're developing is for NASA's intended use first. What does that mean? It means NASA's looking for you to develop the technology and hopefully down the road have them buy it from you for infusion into their space program or other activities under the NASA umbrella. Same with defense. That's all technology that's being funded for their warfighter. Agencies like the National Science Foundation, which Dr. Soriano spoke about 2 days ago, along with National Institutes of Health and Department of Energy, for example, will operate on a granting model. What does that mean? That means that you get the funding and you're answering more broader specific topics that the agencies are hoping you're going to commercialize that technology for public consumption and usage. Contracting agencies are really looking to infuse that technology you develop for their use. The granting agencies are more for, give it out to the public. And when I say give it out to the public, it means you're developing for the public need. The most agnostic agency of them all is National Science Foundation, where they will fund anything and everything under the sun. Whereas Department of Energy, U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institutes of Health, they're funding a little bit more prescriptive topics of interest relating to public health, clean energy issues, or agriculture, for example. The more contracting agencies like Defense and NASA tend to be more prescriptive. But without getting into the weeds too much more, one thing I do want to emphasize to all of you is that we at SBA, along with the partnering 11 agencies, have come up with a whole new suite of tools that you can utilize to help raise your IQ in the Sbir program and make you more competitive. So one of the things we've done is we have revamped our sbir.gov website. And if you go to the sbir.gov website, you will see a whole host of resources there, including the solicitation funding topics from all the agencies that are currently active, but also in the past, what they funded. That gives you a little bit of a mindset of what are the topic area trends of interest that the agencies are looking to finance down the road. Additionally, if you go to sbir.gov, we have, like I said, a whole suite of resources, but in particular, we have an online tutorial system that we released this summer. And that online tutorial system is essentially a course program to help educate you on the Sbir program, help you raise your IQ on that process so that when you go through it, and it's basically a course material with quizzes and everything, but it helps raise your vernacular a bit more so that when you do engage with the program managers, you're engaging from a point of leverage where you understand what their needs are and what they're looking to fund. We've also listed on sbir.gov state services programs from all 50 states and territories. What does that mean? That there are all these support services across the country that give low cost or for free support services to help SBIR funded companies or entrepreneurs who are looking to engage in the SBIR program to get assistance in consultation on how to draft an appropriate, potentially winning proposal from a granting or contracting agency perspective. I could go on and on. I think the things you should keep in mind when going after SBIR funding is know your audience, know the technologies you're looking for. So what they're looking for from the federal government program managers, and Ramsey, of course, can talk to you more about that from a NASA-centric specificity. But we are seeding the future. So what are the topics of interest we're looking at? We're looking at environmental technology. We are looking at space exploration. We are looking at next-gen health. We are looking at cyber. We are looking at Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. We really are literally seeding the future. I talked about 3D printing for a second. 3D printing was seed funded from the federal government dating as back as the early 90s. But what was the catalytic tool that got 3D printing commercializable and getting that technology into applied and commercialized markets was the SBIR program. That critical seed funding from the SBIR program into companies like Zcore and Geomagic and DTM and whatnot is what catalyzed that technology to become into what we see today in MakerBots, 3D systems, Stratasys systems, that stuff of nature. So I guess one other story I'd like to say for a second is back in 2014, we were all worried about Ebola. Ebola was coming around. We didn't know what to do. There's this one company out of San Diego, MAP Biopharmaceuticals. They created the ZMAP drug. That was the experimental drug that was utilized by the CDC and the government to figure out if it could be a potential cure for Ebola. when we were dealing with that situation in 2014. The funny story about that is that the ZMapp drug and MAP Biopharmaceutical Company are SBIR-funded technology and an SBIR-funded company. The solicitation they answered to address that call to help find a cure for Ebola dates back to National Institutes of Health funding from 2007-2008 time period. That means the National Institutes of Health, dating back 2007-2008, was thinking forefront that we had to deal with this issue down the road. So it wasn't until 2014 that it matured to a point of which where it was deployable, but it was dating back to 2008 where the agency program managers are literally saying, look, this is not something 1-2 years from down the road. We're looking at 5, 7, 10 years down the road. And that's something I want you to emphasize to your community, is that if you're going to go after SBIR funding, you're literally chasing after high risk, high reward, non-dilutive funding that will help fuel the fire for your startup and high-tech enterprise. But also, it's very forward-thinking. It's very futuristic-driven thinking. And, you know, if you're going to go after high risk, high reward, those are noble professions, noble efforts to go after. I could go on, but I think I'll stop for a moment there.
That'll work.
Are there any?
That'll work. No, that was a good overview. I think that leads into the next conversation we're going to have here with Ramsey.
Perfect.
And also, I want to mention at the end of both these conversations, one of the big questions that I want us to think about, and I think the participants are interested in this as well, to give you a little time, is what are the typical mistakes most people make when applying for SBIR, STTR. But first, we'll go to Ramsey and hear what technology infusion is and how does it apply to SBIR, STTR.
All right, thank you, Carlos. Had a great introduction with Nagesh's presentation. Technology infusion, what is it and how can it apply to small businesses and universities and research entities that are interested in SBIR and STTR? First, as Nagesh mentioned, NASA is very prescriptive in how we develop our solicitation, which is broken down into topic areas under each of the 4 mission directors that we have. Those mission directors are Aeronautic Research Mission Directorate, Space Technology Mission Directorate, Human Exploration and Operation Mission Directorate. That one's a mouthful, so we usually just call it HEOMD, and the Science Mission Directorate. Under those mission directorates, we have topic areas that address our overall technical needs and gaps, but those are also broken down into subtopics. And when you submit a proposal to our SBIR and STTR programs, you're addressing a solicitation under those subtopic areas. Those subtopic areas is where we want to derive technology that we would love to infuse into some of our experiments, our missions, our technology developments, to help us bridge technology gaps, enhance our technologies that we're trying to develop, and also may even help spawn new ideas to address technology needs that we may have in the future. For example, there was a technology that was developed in 1992 through the SBIR program. I believe it was Yarborough Technologies, and that technology ended up being, it was a lithium-ion battery, and that technology ended up being infused into the Mars Curiosity rover, which launched, I believe, several years back. Those batteries are still in use, and we're still collecting data. So you have to see how forward-thinking you have to be. We don't just look for technologies 5 years out. Sometimes it's 10, 15, 20 years out before it's infused. One important aspect of infusion is not only do we want to bring it on for our missions, there are other agencies that can benefit from them as well. So other agencies have infused our technology, and one vehicle that helps us do that in an expedient manner is contracts. So Nagesh mentioned that NASA is a contracting agency with our SBIR program. With that, we have a contracting vehicle entitled Phase 3. Most people think that that's the next step after Phase 2 for SBIR, But what it is, it's a sole source justification for us to use an SBR award that was awarded a phase 1 and or a phase 2 to purchase that item from you at any time. It doesn't have to be right after your phase 2 contract ended. It can be 2, 5, 10, 20 years from now. So what's important about commercialization and infusion is we want to develop the American economy through small business, but while your small business is around for 3, 5, 10 years through infusion, if you commercialize it into the public sector and private sector, you'll be around for us to purchase that item when we need it 5, 10, 20 years from now. Also, this with our seed funding, you don't have to spend your internal research dollars to develop the next generation technology that would be of use to our agency or another government entity. We use the term free money as well, but we use it in 2 different ways. We use it as free money for the small businesses, but also when I was on the science side of the house doing research and development for future instruments to go on spacecraft to collect science measurements, we looked at it as free money for us because we didn't have to, as a scientist, invest our research dollars from our grants to have a small business develop a technology. That money is coming from, as Nagesh mentioned, is coming from our extramural research budget that is pulled off the top of our budget at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we don't, down to the level of the scientists or the engineer, the innovators at the government agencies, they don't see that money. It just is free money for them too. So it's a good way to form a partnership with government agencies and the innovators that are there. In terms of the NASA perspective, it's really understanding our needs. One way you can do that is by visiting our websites, looking at what each center's core competencies are, what their needs and wants are, what future missions are upcoming, what solicitations are out there for the next instruments that will be developed for a satellite or the International Space Station. All of our mission directorates that I mentioned earlier, they each have a vision or a roadmap for a science mission directorate, decadal surveys that outline what our needs are for the next 5, 10, 20, and some of the roadmaps go even beyond that. So we try to be pretty transparent about what our needs are, and they're documented on those websites. And it's also good to visit our NASA SBIR website, sbir.nasa.gov, where you can learn about our different programs, our post-phase 2 initiatives that we have, because as we move into a new fiscal year, we may make some additions, and you can get updates from our website or signing up for our newsletter. So I mentioned post-phase 2 activities, and as we move forward to this upcoming solicitation, which will be released around the middle of November, we do have one program that will be included in that, and please stay tuned to see if there's any others that may be added to that solicitation, and that is phase 2E. E stands for enhance, where the small business would find a partner who's willing to invest funds. NASA will match those funds 1-to-1, and I think the minimum for that is $25,000, and the maximum, I believe, is around $125,000. But that number, those numbers may change as we publish the solicitation, and it gives you 6 to 12 months past your phase 2 award to further enhance that technology. What that gives you is a chance to commercialize your technology, increase the technology readiness level so it can potentially be infused into a NASA mission or ready for commercial partners such as a large company that may want to purchase that technology for you or for you to put it to commercial market. Next slide, please. Okay. There was a previous slide up there that mentioned technology available. So one thing that we have that's unique to NASA and a few other agencies is a technology available program where you can use NASA patents or software, build upon those, and develop a technology. One thing that we've added to our solicitation, I believe it was starting last year, is if you don't include that at the time of your proposal, while you're developing the technology during your phase 1 or phase 2 award, you can still request a royalty-free research license during the time of your award. This is also a way of obtaining free money because you're not paying to license the technology from NASA, and we also moving the technology from the government out to the private sector. And you don't have to start from scratch for all technologies that you want to develop. So I would like to talk about, lastly, typical mistakes that applicants make, but also typical mistakes that, or some suggestions that companies can use while they're during time of award, so you can move successfully from phase 1 to phase 2. I'm not sure if that's something that we will have time to discuss here, but that's something, when looking at the data, I've seen that we would like to see more companies submit strong proposals moving from phase 1 to phase 2, because that's where you go from your concept to actually producing a prototype and be further along using free money for commercialization. One way, using resources available to you, such as technology available. Can you go to the last slide, please? Yeah, one past that. I don't. Okay, go back up one. I'm sorry, I can't see. Report if you develop new technology. Report your technology to that government agency. That's the only way we're going to know that you developed something new. And it's actually required by law that you report your new technology. Keep the lines of, for a contracting agency, keep the lines of communication open with your contracting officer representative. Keep in contact with the representative, your interface at the agency, about what you're doing during your time of award. Stay current with the agency's wants, needs, gaps, future missions, projects, and experiments. That'll make sure that you're developing your technology in a way that we will be able to efficiently infuse it. We don't want you to go down a separate path that would make infusion nearly impossible, even though we may love the technology and the concept and idea of what you've developed. Brag on yourselves. If you're developing something well, tell us. If you sold some of these items, you commercialize it, please tell us. We do not mind those unsolicited emails. Tell us about the growth of your company, any subsequent awards and contracts. That is how we know that we're getting a great return on our investment. And this helps keep this program healthy and sustainable. And with that, I conclude my portion, and I hand it back over to Carlos.
Thank you very much, Ramsey. I think that there was some very exciting information in there. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things that I found very interesting. The Phase 2E matching funds is just really exciting. I think that's a good amount of money, the 25 to 125K, and that's really important in providing a longer runway for some of these companies when they really need it, because a lot of times they're there trying to acquire VC investment or some secondary, tertiary rounds of angel investment, and those funds really come in handy. Also very interesting is the royalty-free research license. A lot of companies, I think, are working on research and development on their own, aside from anything that they'd want to partner with the federal lab for. So I think being able to have that opportunity to say, if you're working on things that are research and development based, and you decide to work on something that's a technology within NASA, then you can also get get something on top of that as well, and then get some IP out of that and move those things forward. So I appreciate that. Also, your last comments about bragging on yourself, I think that's very important in these applications. It's important, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's important, I think, to share with all these agencies all of the projects that researchers and companies are working on, because it provides insight into their acumen and insight into their ability to commercialize things, and not just research on its own. So I appreciate that. Next, I'll move back to Nagesh and ask a little bit about some of the typical mistakes that you might see generally.
Yeah, well, a couple of things I want to highlight too. The nice thing about the Sbir program is that it is validation of your idea. It's validation of your company and your purpose. Think of it as the seal of the golden eagle. Sbir technology or Sbir funded companies actually attract more venture capital dollars and angel investment dollars because it's non-dilutive. There's been no equity dilution whatsoever. So that if you have a couple of SBIR awards under your belt and you're looking for some angel follow-on VC funding, angel investors and VCs are going to look at that and go, okay, you have validation for your company, you have validation for your technology, and the government's willing to bet on you, so you must have something here. One of my favorite success stories that we see coming online is actually from NASA. It's Made in Space. So you probably are familiar with 3D printing. I know we're talking a lot about it already. 3D printing that is occurring on the International Space Station is the result of a NASA SBIR-funded company called Made in Space. What's really interesting is that they got the funding from NASA for phase 1, phase 2, but did such a good job that they're now doing a lot of the next-gen 3D printing and material science development for NASA on the space station, on top of which they now have an exclusive partnership with Lowe's. So they are now doing stuff with Lowe's to print and create materials that are done on the space station experimentally, and people, that kind of, this maker-bot technology that they're developing is being, partnered with Lowe's. So I think that's one thing I just wanted to highlight is NASA's been doing some really awesome stuff. And that's the vision. It's the vision of this long-term play of high risk, high reward endeavors. Now, one thing I wanted to also point out real quick is that NASA's got their SBIR website, and that's where you're going to get all the detailed information. But if you're thinking about all the different agencies and the cross-flow and different program managers to talk to, that's the Gateway Clearinghouse, and that's sbir.gov. And sbir.gov will then lead you to the NASA site. So if you're not sure about whether or not you want to work with NASA, or maybe it's Air Force, or maybe it's Navy, sbir.gov is a good way to delineate where you want to go. And all the program managers from all 11 agencies, contact information, emails, phone numbers, whatnot, are listed on sbir.gov. So just keep that in mind too. And they're very open, like Dr. Smith said, they're very open. They want you to reach out to them. They want to talk to you. With respect to common mistakes, I think a couple of things we want to highlight on that front. When applying, you do not have to have had your company established yet. When applying, it is when the award is being made, you need to make sure you're a for-profit business, 500 employees or less, and you want to make sure that you are capable of doing the R&D. There is that assessment. They want to know that you can do that work. A lot of the times you'll see people who they'll exceed the page limit. They'll not check off the box correctly. They won't indicate in grants.gov. I get it. There's a lot of federal government website systems and they suck. But we got to work with it. And so what it requires you to do is to take a little extra time to prepare your application and get all the check boxes, dot the I's, cross the T's, do that. I think something Dr. Smith said that's really important is get to know not only your program manager, but get to know your core, your contracting officer representative. That's really important to get to know them too, because they're the ones issuing the funding to you. They're the ones giving you the money. So if you have a good relationship with the core, when you draw down the funds to be utilized for your R&D work, if the core knows what you're doing and can feel like it's comfortable, they'll push the money out pretty fast. It's funny when you're talking about mistakes, because yesterday I had to do the sad news. I had to let a company know that the core for one federal, I won't go into the details, but basically a core officer I talked to at one of the agencies decided to retract an award. And it was because the company did not show in the SAM system that they were a for-profit. Even though they had everything together, they didn't show it till after the fact, after the core had to retract their award, because the core said, look, you're not in the system showing you're for-profit. You haven't supplied any information that would make me feel like you are a for-profit entity. So I have to, it's end of fiscal year, I have to do that. So what's really important is do your homework ahead of time. Make sure if you do win the award that you get your for-profit paperwork together, get your EIN set up, all that stuff, your TIN, get that all squared away, get yourself registered in SAMS.gov. And it's different because granting agencies operate through grants.gov and then pull in with the SAMS.gov info, and then anyone who's wishing to do business as a contracting, you use SAMS.gov as well, but then you have the contracting portals from the different agencies you utilize. Also, make sure you have the requisite skill sets of the team that's going to do the work. The principal investigator who's going to do that research and development, the project, they need to have their skill sets. We're not asking, you don't have to have a PhD, you don't have to have a master's, but you have to have the requisite skill sets needed to do that R&D and show that you have the technical competency to do so. You're not going to ask a doctor to go fix your car, nor would I ask a car mechanic to fix my body in the hospital. Have the requisite skill sets needed. Know your audience. That's like the other thing too. Get to know the program managers and understand their needs. They're there to help you get the funding. They want to fund the high-tech, high-risk, high-reward, focused entrepreneurs. But they also want to know that they're making bets on people. They're betting on the team, they're betting on the people, they're betting on the technology. And so make it easier for them. Like Dr. Smith said, brag about yourself. Show that you've got your credentials. Show that you've been able to do well, and if you have won some prior awards, because that's going to give them a vote of confidence in knowing that, hey, these are folks who deliver on the goods. Okay, got it. Thank you. I think those are some of the key things right off the bat.
Sure.
I think most importantly, take advantage of the free resources. Take advantage of the services. They're there to help you out. We want you to succeed, but remember, this is a social contract. You are getting free funding from the federal government. Because you're getting that free, non-dilutive funding, there are some strings attached, and that means filling out the paperwork, dealing with the bureaucracy, and knowing that it is a little bit of a tedious process. But the trade-off is that you get funding that's free. Mm-hmm. And so just, there's a trade-off with it all.
Can I emphasize a point that
Sure.
made? When we are doing our proposal reviews, it's very helpful when the company spells out in their proposal how their technology development will benefit for us, NASA, and how they would do that, addressing whatever technical need we spelled out in the subtopic. When the reviewers and all the other entities that have to review the proposal and the submission packages have to dig for that information through the proposal, it makes it difficult, and you're relying on someone else to tell your story versus you telling the story to us. So reading, taking time out to read through the solicitation to make sure that you're addressing something that is an actual need to us instead of you telling us what we need that's not even mentioned in our solicitation will be extremely helpful. Also, I like to very much so reiterate that compliant proposal, because I can't tell you how to submit a successful proposal because I don't know how that looks for each different subtopic. But if we can tell you how to submit a compliant proposal, and for each agency, they do a thorough job of outlining that in the front part of their solicitation. Or sometimes they have the information housed on their website and they refer you to that website. But please look through that, because it's painful when a proposal was not reviewed because the page count was too long, or they were outside the margins, or they didn't use the right font. It may have been a brilliant idea, but we didn't even get a chance to review it because it's not compliant. So we really want you to submit a compliant proposal. That way everyone has a fair shot of being reviewed and evaluated appropriately.
I appreciate that. I think it brings up a good point about some of the drivers for my next question here. I'm wondering if one of you can speak to what percentage of awardees hire a contractor to help them submit these proposals, given the importance of writing it correctly as a driver. And if we don't have the percentages of that, I know NASA has some programs that support the grant writing and the proposal element of it. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Ramsey, and Nagesh, if you can talk about, the value of having a company or a program, federal or otherwise, help these small businesses submit these proposals, because I think in general there's a little bit of disconnect between the nature of research and the value of the research and the nature of a proposal submission and everything that goes into a proposal submission, and the fact that that's really its own undertaking unto itself.
Yeah, so I can tell you this. The SBA has done a tremendous job of making sure those resources are highlighted on sbir.gov. Like I said, on the state services section, those are entities, organizations with people there who will give low cost, no cost consultation. We have a program called the FAST, the Federal and State Science Technology Assistance Program. And with the FAST awardees, each state, a lot of the states across the U.S. that have a FAST awardee program have a program that won FAST funding from our office at SBA to assist at phase 0 with writing a compliant proposal and consultation and support services and how to compete effectively for a Sbir award. On top of that, there are some people out there, there are some contractors out there and consultants who can assist. On the percentage count, I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. But what I do know is this, that at our national SBR conferences, at our SBR Road Tour programs, we will, especially at the national SBR conferences, we will do a pre-conference with Tech Connect where we will bring leading consultants who come and educate and do a workshop on crafting a phase 1 and phase 2 proposal. So we do offer that kind of stuff, and we do make sure that kind of programming is out there available. It's always good to talk to the program managers. I think that's the most important thing, is talk to the program managers and seek the assistance of these FAST centers. And actually, even now with sbir.gov, that online tutorial, we do have an online tutorial course on how to write a proposal, how to write a compliant proposal and the rules of the road, and basically a checklist of make sure I do X, Y, and Z.
Ramsey, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, Carlos, I'll take a few moments to address it. So I don't have statistics on how many companies use an outside consultant to help them craft their proposal, but my thoughts are pretty much aligned with what Nagesh stated. I participated in a regional economic development event recently about SBIR and tech transfer, and what you see at events like that is you have companies and you also have local city, state, county, and even federal entities that will help companies develop their SBIR proposal and concept, even some on the university level as well. As some of the programs are called phase 0, which is before phase 1. Some will just help you vet your idea to see which agency you should want to submit your proposal, or should you submit to multiple agencies. Sometimes they will do a red team for you, which means that they will look at your research and development proposal and have several subject matter experts review the proposal. And once it's reviewed, they will make red lines so you can address those comments before you submit it to the respective agency. Most of those services are of no cost to the small business. You do have consultants that do help companies write proposals, and they do charge a fee. And some of those companies have helped some small businesses submit successful proposals. Something Carlos mentioned during his questions was NASA has a $5,000 commercialization package in our solicitation, where a company can receive an extra $5,000 on top of their award for commercialization assistance. So helping you craft the plan on how you can move your concept and your technology development from lab to market, or lab to infusion. Hopefully it's lab to market and infusion. So that's something that I think that more companies should take advantage of through our proposal process, and do that research to find out what is needed in our proposal process so they can be compliant for that for that additional award.
Thank you, Ramsey. Before I shift to a couple of questions here on the differences between SBIR and STTR, wanted to mention a couple of points. Just to reiterate, we are still accepting questions. If you'd like to submit a question, use your chat feature, questions USPTO, and you can submit those to us. Also, we will be making the recorded versions of the presentations available on the mbda.gov website. Once again, those will be available, www.mbda.gov. The first two should be available in the next week or two, and this one around the same time frame. Now to the shift between SBIR and STTR, especially as it relates to universities. We know that there's a couple of subtle differences. The one I want to focus on specifically has to do with the fact that SBIR allows for university collaboration and STTR requires that university collaboration. Given that reality, are there resources available to pair businesses with research partners at universities? And as a follow-up, how can universities or researchers within universities learn more about increasing their participation in this type of program?
Yeah, so a couple of things to highlight. So the SBIR program runs across 11 agencies, from defense all the way down to EPA. Now, the big five of the 11 agencies, which is defense, followed by Health and Human Services, followed by Department of Energy, followed by NASA and National Science Foundation, those five have what's called STTR programs, which is their sister program to the SBIR program. And essentially what the STTR program is that it is operated like a SBIR program. It is an SBIR grant or contract like vehicle tool, but you have to outsource some of your research and development work to a research institution, generally a university. Not always having to be a university, but it's a not-for-profit R&D focused institution. And essentially what it is that 70% of the work has to be done by the firm, the small business company, and 30% of that work is subcontracted to the research institution to have some sort of co-PI, principal investigator of the sort, who's helping do that work. And it's a great useful tool for a small business company to take advantage of major R&D universities, whether it's Rensselaer Polytechnic, MIT, Howard University, Clark Atlanta, a university, Tuskegee, Stanford, whatnot, universities that have an R&D component or mission to that university. They have a lot of equipment. They've got the tech, the TEMs, the SEMs, scanning electron microscopes. They've got the FTR spectrometers. They've got probably the assay machines and whatnot, depending on what it is you're working on, or maybe even the advanced manufacturing capabilities, whatever it may be. It's a great use of resources where you don't have to go and buy the equipment to go do your R&D. You can just basically sublease from the university per se and use some of their expertise, their scientific expertise to help you do that contracted or granted work. The thing to keep in mind is that the small business company wins the award. So when they get the SBIR or STTR, that funding goes to the small business company, and then the small business company in an STTR grant or contract will subprime or outsource 30% of the funding to that research institution to help do the work. With SBIR, and that's how it works with STTR, is that 70% is done by the small business company, 30% done by the research institution. The SBIR program does not have that mandate, but it does permit, and it's at the discretion of the agency and with SBA consultation, essentially, but when need be. But essentially the way it kind of is derived in our policy directive and whatnot is that the small business company that is doing the SBIR work is still also the majority doing the work, but they are allowed to subcontract some of the funding out to a research institution to do some of the work. But essentially with an SBIR, like STTR, the funding goes first to the small business company, and the small business company has to do the majority of the work. And like I said, it is actually specifically split out as 70-30 in an STTR funding, whereas in SBIR, it's a little bit more at the discretion level. It's funny enough, I was just dealing with that issue today because of legal interpretation of that front. But the idea is that it's a small business company, not some shell entity but actually the small business company doing the work for the explicit needs of applied commercializable R&D. Did you want to give it from a NASA's, because you've dealt with it a lot all the time at NASA?
Yes. As Nagesh mentioned, SBIR and STTR are two separate programs, and universities offer a unique skill set and also a unique aspect for you to approach research. They have not only the professors, you have research professors, you have postdoctoral fellows, you have equipment that you would normally have to spend a lot of your resources to rent or procure in order to accomplish some of your research goals. And they also have graduate students that can work with you to help you accomplish your research goals. There are some things that you do have to keep in mind. If there are ITAR restricted issues, you want to make sure that the all parties involved have the right citizenship requirements that are outlined by the agency, and all of that type of policy information is usually on everyone's website or in the solicitation. You also want to make sure that in your work plan, you want to outline what everyone's roles are. During evaluation, that's something that can come up. If a professor is stated that they're going to work 40 hours in a week, but they're teaching 3 classes, then that may draw a red flag, because you have to make sure that someone has adequate time that they can devote to the project and also to any obligations that they have at the university. You also want to make sure that you're not just using the university for that they're actually an adequate partner, and you're not just using their scanning electron microscope, but they're not actually partners with you. That sounds like more of a let or a contract, where we really want to look at, are they really your partners? Do they have some intellectual stake in this development as well? A lot of there are some matchmaking services that are out there. Some state and local entities try to help facilitate that. But what I've noticed is the great relationships happen organically. And with any type of organic growth, whether it's vegetables or relationships, you have to put the right things together in order for that organic growth to happen. A suggestion is when you attend local conferences, it's outside of the comfort zone for some people, but network while you're there. A lot of small businesses attend the vast array of technical conferences that are in their subject matter arena, and so do university professors, and that's where some folks have met. Also, local roundtables that you may have, talks at and colloquium at local universities. Small businesses should attend those in their spare time, or sometimes government agencies have presentations that are open to the public that are about the research that they're doing, and that's another place where you could possibly meet someone that could be a future partner for your university or for your small business.
That's a great point. You mentioned there about relationship building and things coming out of those things more organically. Can one of you talk a little bit about the protocol for engaging with technology transfer officers? I think they're the ones that are in a position to have a lot of information about what each program requirements are and the steps that potential applicants should be taking. Is there something in particular that our participants should know about protocol for engaging with them between pre-solicitation periods and when the solicitation closes?
Yeah. So if you're going to go at it after it from an STTR-like perspective, where you're going to subcontract out to a university to do some of that research and development, you want to have the intellectual property agreements hashed out. You want to have the contractual agreements and obligations hashed out, because that's going to make it a lot easier for the program manager and the contracting officer to want to issue and make the award. That's actually a requirement that you have those figured out if you are going to do that kind of thing, because at the end of the day, it's the small business company that is doing that primary research. And technically speaking, from a BIDOL perspective, when it comes to federal funded research, the company, so in BIDOL, the small business company gets to retain the IP rights. You own the intellectual property. If the university does it, then the university owns the intellectual property when it comes to federal sponsored research. This is where it gets a little tricky, because in an STTR funded mechanism, the small business company and the university could lay claim to some of those intellectual property rights because they're both doing the federal sponsored research under that funding authority. And so that's where that contractual agreement of who's going to own the intellectual property and how it's going to be assigned. Is it the university that owns it and assigns it to the small business company under an exclusive licensing agreement, or is it the small business company gets to own it if they're doing the primary work and the university gets some royalty cut? It all depends. But part of it is that for us, we want to make sure that that's all hashed out so that there is no all of a sudden a disagreement on ownership of the intellectual property that is derived out of that federal sponsored research, because that's a joint initiative between the university and the small business company doing that applied research and development and generating that new intellectual property.
Right. I'd just like to quickly tackle the engagement with the government agency during the opening and closing of the solicitation. During the blackout period, which is while the solicitation is open, until the day that the announcements for selection have been made. At that time, you cannot engage with the government agency about the open solicitation. Anything having to do with submitting a proposal or dealing with subtopics, you cannot engage with the government agency about that. After the selections have been made, at that time is when you can talk to the government agency and they can engage with you about anything in that subject matter area and about the SBIR and STTR program. You may see us do outreach during the blackout period, but at that time we're talking in general about SBIR and STTR. We may refer to past solicitations because those solicitations are closed. But keep in mind that during those times we can engage.
And that's actually a good point, because past solicitations will help give you insight as to what the agency is thinking about currently and down the road. I mean, that's what's really important, and that's why I stress so much so is look through sbir.gov, because that's got an archive besides all the open new solicitations from the different agencies. And by the way, on there right now, there's funding from USDA, Department of Energy, Environmental Protection Administration, Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, NIH. Those agencies and National Science Foundation, all funding currently right now, listed on sbir.gov under the find funding or solicitation listing breakdowns you can look at. But if you look through the archives of the past funding projects, whether it's the solicitations that the agencies put out, or even looking at the past awards, because we also have on sbir.gov all the winning awards, phase 1, phase 2. And so you can take a look and filter out. We have filters to see the years you can block out, and you can kind of see from there where was the funding going? Where were they going? What were they doing? What are they interested in? That gives you insight. That's business intelligence.
Thank you very much to both of our guests. We're running a little low on time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I'd like to give you both an opportunity, a little 30-second final thoughts.
Okay. My closing thoughts are, please read through our previous solicitations, see what we're offering, read through our websites since our solicitation will be released in November. That way you're adequately prepared. Make sure your company is set up appropriately so you can handle contracts in case you are awarded, and good luck if you decide to submit a proposal to NASA this year.
A couple things. Actually, I saw a question here that I wanted to address real quick. It was, I want to do work globally, but my company is incorporated locally. That's fine. As long as you're a U.S. majority-owned, for-profit, small business company, 500 employees or less, and you're working here in the U.S., you can do that work. You can operate as a company. It's for U.S. companies. But if you have a global intention with your technology, even better. We love that. In fact, the U.S. Department of Agriculture now requires in their solicitations that the companies that compete for their funding here for the U.S., obviously address the domestic needs, but also they've said, tell us how you're going to globally scale up your technology and commercialize potential. National Science Foundation has a whole host of companies that have come out of their program that tackled the needs here in the U.S., but actually address global issues too. A good example is Promethean Power Systems. If you get a chance, check them out. They're doing some wonderful work. With respect to my closing thoughts, I just wanted to say this. Entrepreneurship is about high highs and low lows. And it's all about that journey, and it's all about going forth with it. So you got to dream big, and you got to go with the gusto. And all I can tell you is that you maintain a positive spirit, you'll do fine. Excellent. Thank you again both for your insight. We really appreciate you being part of this MBDA, SBIR, STTR webinar. That was a wealth of information. Also, I want to reiterate to our participants, feel free to contact myself or either of our panelists here if you have follow-up questions. A couple of points just to remind, as a reminder, the next open solicitation for NASA, as Ramsey mentioned, is in mid-November, so feel free to take a look at that. Additional resources on technology transfer in general and the federal laboratories can be found on the Federal Laboratory Consortium website. Additionally, our next webinar is on the 18th of October, and it covers the subject of legal aspects of tech transfer. And following that, the same week is a webinar on the 20th of October, building a technology transfer pipeline. Thank you again to all of our participants. We look forward to seeing you next time. Nagesh, did you have some final? Yes, October 5th and 6th at MIT. Next week, free conference, October 5th and 6th at MIT. It's a free conference. If you go to sbirroadtour.com/Boston, sbirroadtour.com/Boston, or if you go to sbir.gov and you look through the 411, there will be a link to the Road Tour program at Boston. Free conference, 2-day summit, October 5th and 6th at MIT. Day 1 sold out, but that's okay. Day 2 is not sold out. That's up to 1,000 people. We have we have 200 tickets left for the 6th. So if you have time and you want to go, all the program managers will be there. So that's an opportunity to get one-on-one interaction with the program managers. There you are. Sorry. SBIR next week, MIT. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next webinar.